Well, obviously we're in the blues section of the book. And like the book says, by the time you get to the Parker changes for the blues, you'll definitely have them. But it doesn't really take that long because in the blues section, these are chord charts. Again, we expect you to learn to read chord charts by this point and know how to count 4 to the bar or 6 to the bar, whatever the time signature might be. So I'm going to take you through the first 4 blueses. Blues number 1, blues number 2, blues number 3, and the Parker changes for the blues, which used to be called the East Coast version of the blues, which now we call the West Coast version of the blues. Don't ask me why. Everybody wants ownership. As a matter of fact, when you learn the number system, people will tell you that's the Nashville number system. Well, actually, Nashville isn't the only group of people that uses a number system. We've been using the Roman numeral number system for our scale shapes and our scale and our chords for hundreds of years. So I'm going to stop right here so you get the idea. Let's take it from the very beginning. I want you to play along if you can. You should be able to by this point. I'm going to set the metronome for you by tapping my foot. 1, 2, 3, blues 1. Now I'm just playing 4 to the bar, but I'm kind of accenting the 2 and the 4. I'm just using the open hand and the thumb right now. Okay, blues number 2. Now I'm using part of the flamingo stroke to give me some accent, so I'm using the back of my fingers. There's an extra chord right there. Now all the chord forms and the information in these exercises will be mainly E and C-shaped chords. I'll tell you why. Here's blues number 3. The same right up to this point. The same as blues 2. Okay, now we're going to change the way we get to the 6th chord. We're going to go up 2, 3 to 6 right there. 2, 5. Instead of 1, 6, 2, 5, we 3, 6, 2, 5. Again, these are the numbers we use for the chord names. Here's the Parker changes for the same 12-bar blues. I use that for a little accent. And of course, the chord diagrams are there for you. Now, the New York 1 and 2 are just more chords in the same space. And what you'll be practicing is how to shift certain types of substitutions. And we'll talk more about those substitutions in the higher levels, but we'll talk about the substitutions in the first 4 right now. That's what I want to get to. So you have 3 chords in the first blues. All right? So now what we're going to do in the second blues, we're going to add the 6th chord. The 6th change in the key of G should be E minor. Again, when we talk about our triads, they're in this order. The first triad or the first chord in any scale would be major, minor, minor, major, major. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 6th change is minor. The 7th change is minor and flat 5. And then the last change is major again. So if you just remember your triads properly harmonized to stay in this key would be major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, minor, major. So if that's the case, that means that the 6th change and the 2 change should always be minor. Not necessarily. What we do here is we take the 6th change, instead of making it minor, we make it major and dominant. Makes it happier. And again, it's not so pedestrian. You make the 2 change minor again. Kind of brings you back into the key of G. So for this moment, when you play an E major, you're not playing notes necessarily all in the key of G. So you actually sound like you're in the key of E for a moment. Instead of playing E minor, which would end you right back in the key of G. Those notes are the same in both of those key structures. We'll talk a lot more about that, and if you have questions, please, during your evaluation, let's cover that. It's simple, but until you get to the level where you really see this stuff in your mind's eye and you understand the number system a little better, it may be confusing when you first start. So again, we misharmonize a couple of these changes in these blueses just to brighten them up a little bit in certain places, give them a lift. So the blues number 2, you drop in half steps to the 6th change, and you go up here for the 6th change. You want to keep everything in this region because you're at a root 6th string is where our region is for here. Okay? 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 6, 2, 5. Again, you can see that that's a particular number of frets. It's like 4 for every 2 frets. You've got major chords and a structure that will work in a whole lot of songs. The next blues is, of course, the blues number 3, more like Stormy Monday. The first half is just like blues number 2. It has a substitution for the dominant. G7 can be substituted by D minor 7, just for 2 beats, and then back to G7 13, and to C9. Instead of just laying there, let's go up a half step with the root. We're still playing a C7, we've gone to C sharp with a root, so that makes C sharp fully diminished. Look it up on in your book as to why that is. Then G, up to the 2nd chord, 2, up to the 3rd chord, 3, both minor and 7. Then we go to E9 again. So there's 2 ways of getting to that E9. They both work. They substitute for each other. And when you go out to jam with people, you're going to want to know that because you're going to get to where you hear that. You listen for that. So we're going to get to the 6th change. That's usually the added change when guys say we're going to go around the horn. Then you go to the 2 change, to the 5 change, and then this time in the blues number 3, we don't go 1, 6, 2, 5. We go 3, 6, 2, 5, 1 to finish the turnaround at the end of the 12 bars. So that's the difference between blues number 1, which is the most basic with what they call a quick change to the 4. And then, again, that's one of the most basic blues. And then blues 2 has got an addition of the 6th change. And we show you a couple of chords you can use in between, moving either descending or ascending that'll get you to the 6th change. And then you have your 3-6-2-5 or your 1-6-2-5 for a turnaround. You decide that when you're playing with people. A lot of folks listen for an audio cue. And sometimes you can just ask. You don't have to feel like you're stupid if you're asking somebody before you sit in, well, how do you want to do this blues? A lot of guys will say, okay, this is Lumpty Lumpty in the key of G. Quick change to the 4. Yeah, and they might not tell you you do a around the horn. If they say it's going to go around the horn, some guys like to say it's going to go to the 6. You got to listen to whether it's major or minor. Everybody does that subtly differently because it depends on how they want to temper their blues, how it's supposed to feel to you, and what feeling you're supposed to get from the harmonic content or the harmonic environment. That's very important. The harmonic environment that you're in is how you decide which notes you're going to play. Then again, as I've said before, blues is all about why you're playing the notes in the first place. And that's another part of internalizing and externalizing your thoughts and your musical concepts. The Parker changes for the blues, one more. This really gives you a lot of extra harmonic environment. Your harmonic environment keeps getting bigger. So here's the Parker changes for the blues. There's that sub for the G7. Let me try that again so I can show you each of these chords. Okay, down a half step to 7 to 3. Again, misharmonized. It's major instead of minor at that point. Here's your 6th change. Again, a substitution for hanging around on the 1 change. Down to the 5, which is a substitution for your G13. Now to move that a little bit, here's a practice. Watch this finger. The 2nd finger I'm going to roll to get G7 sharp 5 or G7 augmented. So it moves you to that C9. Now you're going to make it minor. Another good practice for the hands. And we're going to turn that around to F13. Then we're going to, when we do this, we're going to go to B minor 7 up here. That's your 3 change. Over to your 6. Now your 2 change. Now we're going to go up here and do some other substitution. Going to move up to the 4, but we're going to make it minor. Now we're actually not really quite in the key of G anymore. creates a little bit of tension. Now we're going to go to the 3 change, properly harmonized. So you create a little tension with the harmony, and you've resolved it. It feels better. So you land back on 1 at the end of 12 bars. That's how the Parker changes, or the more advanced look at the blues. Remember, the Parker changes were used in a 16-bar form to create other songs. Maybe many other nights like this, I'll be standing here with someone new. There will be other songs to sing, another fall, another spring. There will never be another you. 16-bar form of the Parker changes for the blues. So those are things to think about, okay? I hope that entertained you, and I hope you got the kind of education you really need. Remember, as you play these blueses, your ears are going to open up. You're going to hear a lot of songs in these blues changes, and this is usually a very important pivotal point for our intermediate to advanced players. If you want to really get with this, you learn to strum it, and then as you start learning to solo over these changes, you can start by arpeggiating the chords. And this is what we indicate in the book when you're into the play section. And we'll talk more about soloing in some other videos, but for right now, concentrate on getting through these chords, being able to play them in both regions, and that'll be described in the book, and it'll be described in some other lessons that we'll discuss in a video way for our advanced students. Thanks again for being part of this wonderful thing we call guitar playing and music education. Come on back and check out the entire website. It's really a great place to go to find people to listen to have access to the information that you need that'll take you direct. It's not a shortcut. It'll take you direct to the information that you need to really make the instrument part of your voice. And that's the whole key, is to share that joy of being alive with your audience and your other players, your other friends. So again, till I see you again, keep the faith. Stay true to your school and don't stop practicing.